joining us to discuss the importance of vultures and traditional medicine practices that are threatening vulture populations is Dr. Stella Egbe, Species Conservation Manager, Nigerian Conservation Foundation. Good morning and welcome to the morning show.
Good morning. And
thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And great job on the awareness that you're creating with the threat of vultures. Leila gave a stunning report, and we need to just critically analyze the data of the vulture populations. I believe I asked you that behind the scene. But I also wanted you to touch more on that idea of using vultures for traditional medicine.
Yes, so the use of vulture for traditional medicine, it is termed belief-based use. It's not even particular to just Nigeria. There are other Southern African countries that have the same thing. So people believe the traditional medicine practitioners use it to cure some sicknesses. If you look at the documentary, he said they use it for wealth, to do the voodoo for wealth and all that. So
voodoo for wealth.
Yes. So it's more common than we actually think. Maybe because we don't have a lot of data on people practicing traditional medicine, but when we carried out the research, it showed that it is a very common practice, and it drives the declines of vultures by huge numbers.
Mm. Okay, I mean, vultures are not in any way beautiful or pleasant to encounter. I mean, you could see from what you have seen. And I think one of the gentlemen in the documentary said that they're even hard to come by. Yeah. But then one of them also said something intriguing, which we all laughed about, in the studio, that there's no way that vultures can ever go into extinction. And I know that you also laughed about that. Yes. Is this just a mere myth, or is anything to confirm what he has said? Do you think that the vulture population is truly threatened?
Well, first of all, yes, they are not pleasant looking. I'll agree with you, but that is because of the role they perform. They need to be barred to tear into meat and all that. And if they have hairs, they'll pick up bacteria and viruses from carcass. So that is like an evolutionary look for the times. But there is no correlation with what he said. He said they cannot go extinct, but now he says they are scarce. Yeah. If you talk to people that are very familiar with the environment in the 70s and 80s, yeah, they'll tell you most abattoirs, every time you kill a cow, vultures are always mill around to come and pick them up. But you encounter people today and they say, okay, that's true. We used to have vultures around. So if we are not seeing them anymore, just the close observation of our environment tells us something is going on. And then, backed by research, we now find out what exactly is going on. And you find out people are poisoning vultures in their numbers, harvesting the carcass for the sake of traditional medicine. Anytime there is the harvest of carcass, it is mostly for the traditional medicine use. So we can't say they cannot go extinct if, for example, we observed them in thousands before, but now the nationwide survey we did shows that we have less than 1,000 vultures in the wild.
In Nigeria?
Yes, in Nigeria.
1,000 vultures?
Yes.
In Nigeria? Okay.
In all of Nigeria, yes.
Wow.
Really?
Yes.
That was my first question.
Yes.
That's a very staggering number.
Yes.
I mean, in terms of our population. And I also wanted to touch on the fact that, trafficking is the driving force behind this trend. And, Leila did mention the law enforcement agency, MESRA, yeah, which is in charge of enforcing these laws against trafficking endangered species like the vultures. Now, tell us, you did say in that report, more can be done. What more can be done to protect these endangered species?
Yes. So the documentary showed local markets where there is open display of endangered species that have been killed. And as an organization, as an NGO, your work is not enforcement. So you find out who is enforcing these laws. Nigeria has the national mandate to enforce the Endangered Species Act. So if it shouldn't be operated so freely that you go into a market and then you see endangered species being displayed for sale by anyone and everyone. So there is a demand for it, there is a free market for it. So it is largely unregulated, and there is a huge need to fill in that gap of enforcing to reduce the demand for this vulture and vulture parts.
Okay, I'm interested in your thoughts regarding the aspect of the usage of vultures for traditional medicine. I know that in the past, 70s, 80s, maybe 90s, the idea of vultures, igun or igunogun, was very common in Yoruba movies for sacrifices, for cleansing and stuff like that. But not in contemporary, not much in many of the contemporary movies. So I'm wondering if we were encountering them, or they were being encountered in their thousands in the past, when traditional religion was meant to be more visible. But now that a lot of people are into other kinds of religion, now vultures are disappearing. Will that suggest in any way that the contrary is the answer, that more people are actually into what the Yorubas will call Isheshe, which is the traditional religion, now that many state governors, particularly in the Southwest, are now validating the idea of August 20th as the Isheshe Day. So do you think that more people are practicing traditional religion as to suggest why vultures are disappearing?
I can't speak authoritatively to that, but one interesting thing is which came to our mind during some of our work is some of the places we still find vultures are actually places that have community forest.
Okay.
That are worship sites. So you also, even in the Yoruba culture, it's believed that if you make a sacrifice, so that's in the traditional religion, and it is not consumed. So what used to consume those sacrifices were vultures. If it is not consumed, it is because your sacrifice is not accepted. But again, going back to tradition, there is a saying in I don't speak Yoruba very well, but there's a saying in Yoruba language that akin pagun, akin jegu, akin pagun. So I don't know, but when I ask for the interpretation, it says we don't eat vultures, we don't kill vultures, and we don't use them for I think traditional or for medicine or something. So if people have gone contrary to the old proverbs, it means that there is something that has gone wrong with the practice. If you're saying you don't, the old proverb that retained this species in our ecosystem says we don't eat vultures, we don't kill vultures, but now you're killing and you're eating. So the practice is no longer in the way it used to be. And then we can understand why the numbers are no longer what they used to be as well.
Yeah.
The full, sorry, Oji, I think the full saying of that thing is akin pagun, akin jegun, akin figun bori. We don't kill vultures, we don't eat them, and we don't use them for, how do you say that? And we don't use them
to bathe or to...
No, for spiritual cleansing and sacrifice.
And all of that.
Yeah.
Now, why, is it only the Yoruba culture that is involved in this type of, medicinal use for vultures? Do you know any other culture in Nigeria?
No, it's not only the Yoruba culture.
So maybe they're going away from the Yoruba culture to
looking for other culture vultures.
Culture vultures. I like that. Yeah, but why do they use vultures? Why vultures? I'd like for you to highlight the importance of vultures in our ecosystem. Like you heard in my introduction, they are considered, what do you call them? Cleaners. Nature's cleanup team, right? Why would they focus on vultures for medicinal purposes in that regard?
Well, I don't know why they would focus on it, but what we can say authoritatively is that vultures are the natural cleaners, removers of decaying flesh. Is one of the most poisonous things that you can have running into your water system and all that. And vultures are the natural feeders on carrion. They remove that, and sometimes to evaluate the cost of the work they do is to look at what the alternative cost would be. And in the documentary, we said it's a single vulture, the role it plays in the ecosystem is equivalent of $11,000. So in doing that, they remove viruses and bacteria that, if left unattended, would be consumed by humans and can be deadly to us. So anthrax, rabies from dogs, if naturally taken up by vultures, they have the digestive tract to digest all of that. But humans cannot do that. So we know for a fact that they are performing important function. Why it is being targeted for belief-based use, we can't say exactly.
Okay, what can be done to populate their lot?
That was my next question.
Can they be bred? And then what
them.
is the plant-based alternative that was mentioned in the document?
Right.
Okay, so the plant-based alternative project is something that NCF carried out in partnerships with the traditional medicine practitioners. And the question was, okay, you know this is becoming scarce. When you don't have vultures, what do you use? And they came up with this result. So it is something that came from them, not from us. What we just did was to create the avenue for that to happen. And they said it is possible to use alternatives. It's scarce, so you have to do something. Would you stop practicing if you don't have vultures? So we're saying we don't have them as we should, and you're saying there are options. So let us promote those options. This is where the belief-based, the alternatives comes in. And we've produced a document to that effect. The next stage is to translate those documents to different languages and try to push it, because it is culture. People are used to doing something. If you want to introduce something else to them, it's going to take time, it's going to take education. And that is the next phase we are going into. And then when it comes to protecting the remnant population that we have, we need to go look at the habitats they are and work with communities to protect what they still have in those communities.
So where do we find these 1,000 vulture population?
Exactly. And what's their reproductive cycle like?
Okay. So vultures cannot breed in captivity. They have to breed in the wild. They reproduce once annually, and their eggs at maximum 2. And of course, you know, the nature also takes its effects on all of those things. Not all of them would reproduce successfully. And that is why the rate of reproduction is not as fast as the rate of removal by people. So it is not going to be possible to breed them in the wild. So we need to work with communities. So some of the places we found viable population are some communities in the southeast, where you have community forest. They're still breeding successfully in those places. And we're currently working with some of those communities to raise awareness and then to let them understand that they can keep protecting this population so we don't lose everything. Yeah.
Very well said. We'd like to thank you very much for joining us on the morning show.
Thank you for
having
having
me. And well done.
Thank you.
Yes.